Hey, everybody. It is I, Katie Morton, the editor-in-chief of Search Engine Journal. And today I'm sitting down with Mordy Oberstein, who is the founder of Unify Brand Marketing. Mordy, talk to me.
What's going on? How you doing? It's like episode number 3. That's official. That's it. We're a thing.
I can't even believe it. I actually had to have them stop numbering them internally because we were getting the numbers wrong. And
Counting is hard. Counting is hard.
Oh, yeah. So hard. Well, I don't know if you remember, but we did a session back in January, and so this might be number 4.
Oh. Okay, now I lost count, so forget it.
Yeah. So we
take that criticism back. Counting is hard.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. Like last time we talked about brand development and the stages of brand development, and the first stage of brand development is developing brand identity. So for the sake of continuity, which is important for branding, figure let's talk about how you develop brand identity this time.
That sounds fantastic. How does one develop brand identity?
So glad you asked. We're going to get into how you actually do it. Let's talk about why it's important, because it kind of leads into why you should. I'm sorry, that leads into how you should do it. How and why are also complicated. So identity is really the foundation of everything that your brand does, your company does, or whatever, in any part of your marketing. You can't have, it's just a logical point, right? You can't have a strategy. You can't have, here's, what's your SEO strategy? What's your content strategy? What's your PPC strategy? Who's you? Who is this you that we're talking about? So logically, you have to develop identity first. Everyone skips this step, by the way, just so don't feel bad if you have, but now you know. Also, identity is the thing that allows your audience to connect to you. There has to be a point of connection that happens for marketing to actually be effective. And people can't connect unless there's a you to connect with. And that in turn also gives you a lot of focus. Where brands generally go off the rails and start focusing on the wrong things, it's generally because of a lack of brand identity, a lack of identity. So, all right. So now how do you actually build identity? The first thing is understand that identity is not a fake thing. It's not this make-believe thing that we've brand identity. It's a fabrication. It's a real thing that actually exists. Identity is a real living, breathing thing. And it has to be tied, because of that, it has to be tied to what you actually do, what your offering actually is. There's no way to put lipstick on a pig. And the second thing I'll say is, before we really get into this, is it has nothing to do with your company culture. You think, our identity is our company culture, you're doing it wrong. I know it's a little bit of a hot take. The goal with identity is, what you're trying to do is you're trying to create something that is authentic, that your audience can connect with. And it has to have depth in order for that to happen. And in order for there to be depth, there has to be almost like a therapeutic process that goes on. So what you're basically engaging in is therapy for your brand. And what I do with clients is, and what you should do with your own team internally is, you need to tap into who you actually are and what you actually want. So it's why you do the things. You just sit down, have a session with your team, and talk about why you do the things that you do, how you see your industry, how you see your niche, how you see your product, how you see your space, how you see your audience, what you want for your audience, not what you want practically. None of this is really practical in terms of what you're trying to do. Not what your audience is going to get practically, but what you want for them in terms of the actual outcome for their lives in a meaningful way. And the process is to sit there, talk about this, and almost like a therapist, take notes on what lands for you. Right? As you're talking, as you're having these discussions, what lands for you? What's meaningful about this? What do you think is something to chew on? What do you think there's what do you hear in what you're saying and what the people on your team are saying that actually resonates and has meaning? The second step is to take that and try to formalize it and to create an actual pathway to showcase that, right? And that's where you take all these things that you talked about, all these different concepts and ideas about yourself and why you're doing what you're doing, and what your audience will get out of this, and why it's meaningful for your audience, and why it's meaningful that you're doing whatever it is that you offer. And you're trying to concretize this a little bit. And you're trying to take all of those things and create one unified, no pun intended, concept for yourself. And that means, by the way, taking some of those really meaningful things that you talked about and ignoring some of them, or focusing in on some of them, or saying, okay, those are secondary ideas. This is not the primary idea. Now you have to start to prioritize what things that you talked about that were really meaningful in this therapy session for your brand that you did, do you really want to focus on? And then once you have a centralized concept of, okay, here is what we are, here is what we do, and here's why it's meaningful. And once it's really clear to you what that is, you have to start executing that in terms of action. Because like anything else, the communication about who you are as a company, as a brand, is not in the tagline you have on your homepage. It's the nonverbal stuff. It's the latent stuff. It's everything you do, all the things you do, all the content you put out, all the activities you engage in should signal and speak to who you are. And that's where you start integrating who you are and all of the work that you just did in that session, or multiple sessions most likely, into the actual marketing strategy. So it's three things. It's sitting down, doing a session, realizing what's really meaningful, trying to prioritize what is meaningful, what should you focus on, what should you not focus on, and how do you unify some of these themes together, and then putting it out there in terms of how you actually act as a brand. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. I love that, Morty. I have so many thoughts. Yeah. So, I mean, the first thought was, in this stage of brand development, is competitive analysis, or does not even enter into?
Don't even. So I would encourage you not to look at your competitors yet.
Mm-hmm.
All you're trying to do is really figure out. It's literally, take away brand for a second, take away companies for a second. Someone asks you who you are. Do you like who's my competition? Like, no. You start thinking, you know what? Like, what's really meaningful to me? What do I really want? What do I want people to know? What do I like to focus on? All those kind of questions, and you start pulling that out.
Being authentic, it would naturally help differentiate you. Yes. It should, right? So,
yeah, and that's another thing, by the way. So, which is a great point that you bring up. It's technically possible that you could find something, an identity of who you are that's really meaningful, that has a layer of depth, that's not the surface level nonsense that a lot of brands fall into. It can be super clear to you, and it can be not differentiated. It could be the exact same thing as another very, very, very unlikely. I think that it's a technical possibility. I don't think it's an existential possibility.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense, because if you look at a brand or a company as if it's an individual human, like no two humans are alike, how there should two brands be alike.
Yeah. So if you're really doing this the right way, you'll naturally start to create something that's differentiated. And if you feel that it's not, it means you did dig a little bit more.
Right. Yeah. And then one of the things that I found, so full disclosure, we went through this brand identity exercise with Morty here at Search Engine Journal, and we loved it. I think it was extremely helpful. And it also trickles into, like you said, real world actions. And it's helping to inform some of our actual, product strategy and things that we're planning on actually doing in the real world. It's not just, empty calories, so to speak. Yeah.
So thanks for saying that. That's awesome. True is, yeah. If you feel like your marketing team is not getting traction, you're just stuck. It's usually because you're not tapped into who you actually are. Because when you are, you feel very much not stuck. Here's where our product should go. We should not go this way. We should go this way. We should not. It's where you see companies go off the rail with the AI stuff. Oh, let's just jump on whatever AI thing, because they don't really know who they are. They don't have the ability to say, that's not who we are. That's not something we should focus on. Should we do something? Fine, but it should be like this because that's who we are. Mm-hmm. Also, by the way, it also helps you to that focus and that traction and that momentum when you feel stuck. Figuring out who you are, we talked about this last time, is very important for figuring out who are you actually for. Because if I don't know who I am, again, we talked about this last time, how do I know who I'm for?
Right. That's a good point. So it can help target your audience as well. To, who do you want to help? The other thing I found, it's motivating just from a work ethic standpoint. If you feel like you're burned out or you're spinning your wheels or you don't know why you do what you do, it gives you sort of a North Star to really connect with other human beings, with your customer. Who are you trying to serve and why? And what is that really intrinsic motivation that makes people get out of bed in the morning.
Yeah, super meaningful. And in from a practical point of view, when teams talk about, companies talk about, oh, we need to have an internal vision. What you really mean is you need to have internal identity that you're able to communicate across your teams. That's what I feel you're really actually trying to say. Can I give you an example? Like what we're actually talking about? In a more concrete way. So I'm going to give you a weird example. I don't know why I thought of this as my example to use here. Let's say I make picture frames. That's my business. I sell picture frames. So you'll not a very surface-like identity. We're all about making really cheap picture frames. That's very meaningful. But if you start at like, why are we doing this? What we're doing is because you know what? Like we as a team, or whatever it is, we really, really appreciate the idea of like cherishing memories. That's really important for us. So to help you cherish your memories, i.e., your pictures, you have to put them in a frame that speaks to doing that. Help cherish your memories by putting your pictures in. Like I have my pictures still on my phone. They are not cherished. Put them in a nice frame, display them, cherish those memories. But product overlap or inconsistency would be if you're saying that and then your frames are super garbage. So how are you telling me that you're all about helping me cherish my memories by putting them off my phone into an actual frame and displaying them for everybody to see if the frame is flimsy and garbage? Like that would be a misalignment. I'll give you, but you could say you have multiple. Another company might be, you know what? We feel like we want to add artistic flair to your pictures. We're going to have really artistic, really cool picture frames. So we're just going to add flair to an artistic flair, an air of artism. That's a real word, which I don't think it is, to your pictures, and that's meaningful too. It's two totally different companies doing totally different things with their brand identity, and it's based on who they actually are, and their products should align. It's also possible, by the way, that both, right? We feel like, and this is what happens often. We feel like we make picture frames because cherishing those memories and keeping those memories are really important. And we feel like you have a really nice artistic frame that helps you do that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's two concepts together. Cherish your memories. We help you cherish your memories. We're all about you cherishing your memories by giving them by giving it an artistic design to it, right? That really shows that these memories are important to you. That would really show that these memories are special. That would really highlight how special the memory actually is because you're giving it such a great frame. So that would be taking two concepts and unifying them together to create one core concept that speaks of both aspects of who you actually are. Mm-hmm. So you can do different things with this. It all depends on who you actually are in reality.
Right. Yeah. Well, I could imagine too that you could develop whole product lines out of that concept, right? Like this is for, if you serve different customer sets or people, or it's one customer, but they might want variety,
Your whole product line should be informed by that decision. If you're saying, you know what, part of cherishing the memory is the fact that you have a really fancy, imagine you had you bought a Monet, that's like the only painter that I can think of off my head. I like Monet. You want to put it into a poster board, you put it in a really nice frame because that's part of cherishing that memory, or that, in this case, that painting. So your memories are paintings, your pictures are memories, your memories are paintings, which could be a line you could use, by the way, I guess. The product would have to align. So you would make product lines of really artistic frames because that would align to who you are and what you're trying to achieve. And your product should inform, it should all be aligned. If your product is not that, then maybe that's not who you actually are. And if that's who you are, then you need to change your product.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, as someone, I actually paint, so I relate a bit to this example. And I know that if I don't have a motivation, like if I've gone through times in my life where I completely step away from painting. It can be years and years, and it's because I'm missing that, well, who am I trying to serve or connect with? Why am I doing it basically? And the times that I really am aligned with this exercise of figuring out like, who I am and who I'm trying to connect with, and the identity behind would I be a painter, I'm so much more motivated to show up and paint. And anytime that I get lost in, which does frequently happen, the grind of the work week often makes me not paint, right? Because it's like I have different identities at different time as a human being. And so sometimes one identity will sort of take priority over that painter identity. And like, if that's just sort of weak or ill-defined, where I don't keep it top of mind, it's so easy for me to just like literally go years without painting. And so it's something I think for any business, like to bring it back to the concrete reality of what we're trying to accomplish with this discussion, it's so easy to get off track because these days people have so many priorities shoved at them all the time. And it's really easy for businesses to just be idea generators. We run into that issue here all the time where we're all full of ideas all the time. And if we don't have those sort of North Star, KPIs and like rooted into brand identity, it's so easy to go chase shiny things. And
you're all over the place. And I think that's where companies don't realize that why am I spending my time doing this? Shouldn't I just be focused on getting more, conversions, revenue, traffic, whatever it is? And the answer is that one, this will help you do that because you'll start targeting the right people with the right message and the right focus. It'll also save you from wasting so much money. You'll be whether it's product development, whether it's marketing activities, whatever it is, content development that you shouldn't be doing because that's not who you are anyway. It will save you so much time and so much money if you sit down, spend a couple of hours doing this to figure out, we need to do this and not this. Because when you're confused, you do everything and you waste a ton of time, ton of resources, and a ton of money. And I'll say like one last point about it. There are two last points. I know we're running over. One is part of the process is it has to be super clear to you, like you were mentioning. Also, it does evolve over time. Like people, think of it like a person. You evolve over time. Your brand and who you are and what you do and why you do it evolves over time. And the last point is people are creatures of meaning. It's just part of what we are and who we are as people. And if you can't connect something meaningful to it, your audience won't be able to connect. Your audience won't be able to resonate. We won't be able to resonate with your audience. And you will be finding an uphill battle to convince them to spend money with you. Mm-hmm. At the same time, you won't have the right buy-in from your team. Forget, like, you might be either the owner of a company or the CEO of a company. You have motivation. I get it. But your team doesn't have that same motivation. They need something to connect with, and you need to communicate this across who you are across your team. So when you're done doing this exercise with your C-level staff or your marketing man, you need to communicate this and start having real conversations across your entire team about this.
I love that. And I have one last question for you, Morty. And in this step, because I know this is obviously a multi-step process and we're somewhat early in this branding series, I'll say, is the idea of the ICP. How much does that factor into this particular step? Or is there, I know there's so much more to look forward to, but how would you sort of categorize that part of this discussion in terms of the ICP and the brand identity?
It's a hard question. It's a whole I feel like that's a whole topic unto itself. I don't like profiling like that necessarily. I like intent based over persona based marketing. That's my personal preference. So, but my preference
about that. Not to open that can of worms this late in the discussion, but talk just briefly about intent based versus profiling.
Yeah, I'm more interested in why people do things than which person does which thing. Mm-hmm. And I feel that as a general, this should be an episode. What generally happens when you're in more intent focus, things open up. And when you're persona focused, you end up with very like blinders on sometimes. And I'm not saying there isn't room for persona based marketing, all that good stuff. There is that. No, fine. Totally. To go back to the original question, the ICP, again, like kind of a hot take, shouldn't be part of any of this until you figured it out. Okay. Is your ICP, is who your target customer is that going to influence who you actually are? Does that change who I actually am? Think about, all right. Think about it like this. I don't know. You're going on a date with somebody. Should who the other person is should that influence who you are as a person? Like, wouldn't that just be faking it? So that's not a recipe for success. You are who you are, and that's it. Now, obviously, we're all different people with different people. I'm not like, that's a whole different kind of psychology, and that does factor in. But fundamentally speaking, you are who you are, and because of who you are, you should decide to interact with X person or maybe Y person instead. I look at it the opposite way.
Oh man, I'm not gonna. I have so much I want to say about this. Now that's amazing because, well, and if I'll just say this one thing is that when, like, let's say someone is flexible as a brand or as, let's say, a dater, like the idea that, like, let's say somebody has aspirations, whether it's in business or relationships, and they look at this sort of, let's say it's a terrible example, a homely woman who wants to date an Adonis, right? Or let's say it's like someone who's an inexperienced business owner, but who wants to target this really high value customer, but they don't have the experience to provide value. It's like, all right, you have two ways to go with this. One is to, like, you know what, back down and get into your league and to serve who you can serve, or you can get educated. You can level up. If you have this target that, like, it's out of your league, there are things within reason that you could do to improve yourself. But that's a whole nother business development discussion. And, people need, for the purposes of this exercise, it's about being authentic and it's about being realistic and about where you can add value and at the heart of it, really just who are you, right? Like you said, about brand development.
To kind of end off like a very simple example, again, if you micro level this, it all becomes much easier to see. If there's two groups of people I want to hang out with, and group A likes to go to baseball games, and group B likes to go, I don't know, to classic, to the ballet or to the, to the symphony. I want to hang out. Both these people seem cool. I want to really hang out with that one. I love going to baseball games. Like, those are my people. That's who I should hang out with and do those things with. I'm not a fancy person. I don't like going to the symphony. If you do love it, awesome to you. Also, you don't have to be a fancy person to enjoy the symphony, I feel like. That's a stereotype, but that's not my thing. That's not who I am. So I'm not going to focus on like trying to fit into that crowd if that's not who I am. I'll try to focus on fitting into the baseball crowd, and I'll up my game. I'll get the jersey. I'll get the this. I'll get the that. So I can really show those people I'm part of your group, because I am part of your group. I'm not faking it. I'm just trying to amplify what I actually am to show you that's who I am. That's the difference. One is you're faking it in order to show people like, oh, here we are. This is who I am. Not you at all. The other way is, this is who I am, and I'm going to try to communicate that to you by all the things I'm going to do. And I might purposely and consciously try to do things in order to signal to you, I am part of your group. I fit in. Love me.
That's amazing. Well, and, just from a business standpoint, the idea these days, I think that, in terms of SEO and, acquiring customers and traffic, it's so important to talk to your niche, right? And you're not going to be all things to all people, especially these days where AI is going to answer those really basic questions. So you want to seriously be who you are and speak to, your niche authentically, and stop trying to appeal to too many people, because the fire hose of traffic open web days are done. So adjust and adapt.
You're for everyone, you're for no one.
Right. Exactly. All right, Morty, we are at time. And I just want to thank you for sitting down with me to talk. I'm looking forward to the next one. If you guys go to unifybrandmarketing.com, and on the upper right, you can click on free consultation if you want to talk to Mordy. And we're at searchenginejournal.com if you want to see more of our content and our discussions. And Mordy's a contributor for Search Engine Journal. And yeah, any final thoughts?
No, check out the free consultation. Come talk to me and check out the SCJ stuff.
Awesome. Sounds good. All right. Until next time. Bye.